my uncle. He was a bootlegger during Prohibition. And he had a distillery in Canada. And he was smuggling booze into the West Coast and the East Coast from Canada. I was in the military for a couple of years. When I came out, right back into rampers, a gang. And not even a year later, I was an associate in the Colombo family. I heard a voice, and I thought I was having delusions of, with fever, with sick as a dog. And it says, Sammy, don't be scared, be you.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Millennials Choice Show. It's good to be with you guys today. I'm with none other than Sammy the Bull Gravano. Mr. Gravano, welcome back to the Millennials Choice Show. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I miss you guys. We had a great interview last time, and I'm sure we're going to have another good one.
There's a lot I want to get into it. Since the last time we saw you guys, I had just had my son. So I had just become a father. And then earlier this year, I had my daughter, Sophia. So I just wanted to ask you, you've got a daughter. Any tips on raising a daughter in this society these days?
Well, the first tip I could give you, did you get a receipt? Because if you want to exchange them later on in life, you need a receipt.
No, I didn't. I missed that one.
But they're great when they're kids, they're babies, and everything is good. Good luck with that.
Yeah, they bring you a certain joy, kids. Like it's. I'm not sure about you because we've lived such different lives. When you were my age, but when you got home after you were on a job or on a mission or just had a day in that life, did everything stay at the door for you? Like when you saw your kids, did something happen inside of you? You felt this joy when you saw them, or were you too into that life to even experience that?
No, it was more for me because I was always out a lot. And so when I got home, I put everything in the back. And I enjoyed my kids and wife and everything like that. It was a pleasure to get away from things. So, and especially when they were young and their kids growing up, it's a real pleasure. Yeah,
that's how I feel too sometimes. No matter what's going on around the world or in our lives, in our household, when the kids, it gives you this kind of peace that I just don't understand it. I just don't understand it.
Right.
And I see a lot of my age, millennials, and even a few years younger than me, I'm 33 now, they're delaying having kids. They don't want to have kids. They want to travel and enjoy their life. And I get it, the responsibility of kids. Like, I don't know what a good night's rest is this year. I haven't, experienced it in 2024. And it's just been so challenging with two kids under the age of 2. So I get it. But I think they're missing that other part, that joy that comes with that you can't explain.
Yeah, and then I don't know if that actually works because when you're older, having kids, you don't have the energy to keep up with them, and it's not the same. You get older, you get a little cranky. I think it's better when they're young, and as they get older, you're not old, you're still young, so it's better because there's a lot of things. Kids never end, problems, different things, it never ends. So I think when you have them late in life, you're a little older, it's harder to deal with them and everything like that. So they may enjoy what they want to enjoy, and I understand it. People are looking for careers now, especially women. They want to have kids a little bit older because they want to have a career and stuff like that. And but that's something they have to deal with.
Yeah, I agree. And I was just mentioning to my wife, I said, it's one of the greatest joys to have these kids. It's a big responsibility. And if I got older and I got heavier and I got, uglier and then I'm trying to raise these kids, I feel like I'd be miserable. Like I don't know how I would do. I already feel like I'm a little too old compared to what used to happen and how young people would get married and have kids. So when I see people my age delaying it, I said, what are you delaying it for? How many vacations can you go on? How many, trips can you go on? How many dinners can you go on? Those are good, but at the same time, these kids, once they grow up, You're going to celebrate moments with them, milestones with them. Like, man, it's such a different feel. And they're innocent. They're innocent. They love you. The way my daughter looks at me, she loves me. Like, I see them. They teach you about life. I see the meaning of life, and love.
Girls are better than boys when they're young. Daddy's little, girl, they're all over you. I mean, it's, I don't know what it is. Girls are a little closer to their dad than the boy. The boy wants to play, he can care less. But the girls are right around you all the time as kids. When they get older, it's a little different. They want to go out all the time. The boy becomes a little closer to you. So it all works out in the long run, but,
Yeah, so maybe by the next time we sit down together, maybe I'll be telling you about the third kid. Who knows? Let's see what happens. I want to get into really quickly, Trump's the president now. How do you see this country? Well, I shouldn't say this country. I'm in Canada.
Right.
That's, maybe this country. We'll see. But how do you see the United States of America doing these next 4 years?
Well, I think he's picking out powerful people to be, I think he's going to do better than he did the first time. First time he got in, he's a smart guy, but he first got in, he picked people. This time around, I think he's a lot smarter, how to run the country, and he's putting really, really good people around him. I think he's going to be very, very effective. And I think he'll be, end result, he was threatening Canada a little bit, but I think he's going to be better for Canada. And I think, I know there's a woman or somebody from Canada is going to come and talk with him now because he told him, you're better off, I may make you the 51st state, and you could become a governor. I think he was like abusing him a little bit. But I think he's on the right track. He wants to have a relationship with Canada. I believe that wholeheartedly. He'd be crazy not to. I think Biden screwed the whole thing up. The pipeline, he stopped that coming in from Canada. I don't know why he did that, but there was a lot. That was a beautiful thing coming in, the oil coming in from Canada, the pipeline into the United States. There was a lot of jobs on both sides. So Trump was willing to work with Canada in a lot of different ways. I think Biden screwed that all up. And Trudeau, whatever his name is, I think he helped screw that up, the relationship. I think he gets in. He's going to be a little tough because that's the way he is. He's tough, but he's a good negotiator. So I think if there's good people talking with him, I think the relationship will be put back together in a good way. He wants to shut the borders. Drugs are coming in from not only the southern border, but the northern border. He's obsessed with stopping that. So if Canada is obsessed with stopping that too, that won't be a big problem. Illegals coming in and out from different countries. I don't think that's good for your country. I don't think that's good for this country. So if they come together and they work together, I think they'll stop those problems and we'll work together and everything will be great.
I agree. And it's, some people have mixed feelings about this whole 51st state and him calling the prime minister governor because, Canadians are quiet. We like to mind our own business. And it's a mix of people from all over the world, right? We're a melting pot, they call us. So when Trump said, 51st state, a lot of people didn't like that here. And I actually liked seeing the patriotism of Canadians in that moment, standing up to say, we're Canadian, we're not American. I actually liked that. But given the circumstances of the way our country is now, I can totally also see the other side of how would it work if we actually became the 51st state? Would it actually benefit us and how? I'd be open to hearing that because we're part of North America at the end of the day anyways. So we're all part of the same continent in general, right? So, I'd like to see how that is. I wanted to ask you about his whole tariff thing with a lot of countries. It's a tax on imports. And, it kind of reminded me of it protects the domestic business, but it also raises revenue for countries. That's the intention of it if it's done well. And I wanted to ask you, does that at all, whenever you hear the word tariff, does that ever remind you of in the mafia when you would tax businesses, albeit for different reasons, but does it ever remind you of that or give you that kind of vibe?
No, it doesn't give me that kind of a vibe. Here's the kind of vibe it gives me. I understand Trump quite a bit. I dealt with him years ago. I know how he does business. Listen, he's a guy who's going to put you under a lot of pressure. I'm going to do tariffs. It's a negotiating skill. Then he gets the guy to the table, and they talk, and they resolve their problems, and that's how he gets it to happen. He always says or does something to get you to the table and get serious. So tariffs would hurt Canada in a big way. And I think that's a negotiating tool for him to get them to the table and negotiate in a good way. And then he's a deal maker. Once he's got you to the table, then he's a deal maker. He wants to stop wars. He wants to stop things like that. But he uses strength. I forgot what country it was, one of those countries in the Mideast, where he was going to withdraw his troops, and he sat down with the leader and he said, if one of our soldiers are killed in the process of this, he said, I will come in with such force. And he showed the guy a picture of his house.
Yes.
He says, I know where you live. Your family lives. I mean, that's a threat. Yeah. But it's scary because the guy's looking at his house, his family. He's saying, this Trump is half crazy. He might bomb us. So it's peace through strength. Sometimes you make a little bit of a threat and you get to the people to the table. You're not really going to do anything, but you want to get them to the table and you want them to negotiate in good faith. I think that's what his plans are. That's the way I've seen him do business over and over again. So I think inwardly, I think he loves Canada. They're an ally of ours. I'm not sure what a 51st state would be like. I don't know if it would be beneficial to Canada. I know one thing, it would open the door that you're getting federal funds as a state. I mean, all kinds of things. States get big, a lot of money. All kinds of pluses. So there's states in the United States who have big economies and they do very well working with it. I don't think it would be, personally as a Canadian, I wouldn't like it. But if you think about it, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world because I'm still voting in my own governor. He's like the head of my country. He's still the head of the country. He's the governor, whether he's the president, the governor, as long as he's running it, and they could vote in whoever they want as a governor. So they still have power. They don't lose too much power. It's actually better than an ally because if somebody attacked Canada and if they were a state, you'd have the full backing of the United States militarily wise. That's attacking our country. We're going to respond. I think we would respond if Canada was in trouble anyway. So I don't know. It gets very complex, but I think it's more of a negotiating skill than anything else.
Yeah, and I think the example you brought up was the withdrawal of the troops from Afghanistan and the leader of the Taliban that he had said that to on the phone. I've heard that story before. And you're right, it is scary, but it does come from a position of strength. And I would hope that if something happened to Canada and we were attacked, given our circumstances with the current leadership and party, that America would back us up because our military, God bless them. God bless the people in our military, but it's nowhere near the military of other countries. So yeah, I would definitely hope that that happens.
You know, like Russia. Russia's right close to you, right
Yes.
across from you. So I mean, but Russia wouldn't attack you. So I mean, and if they did, we would butt in anyway. I'm sure of that. But I know they don't hate Canada. They go on vacations there. Everybody talks great about it. We almost feel like it's part of us. You know, we're attached. You got the rivers coming through, the pipeline that was there. I was really pissed how Biden stopped that. It was good for both countries. Very good for both countries. And this guy stopped it. You know, so I don't understand that.
In his first 100 days, he stopped it. That was one of the biggest moves he made. And I think second to Russia, we have the largest oil reserves in Canada, even larger than Saudi Arabia. So it's nuts what we're paying for oil and gas here. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I thought it was a crazy, crazy move. And there was a lot of Canadians and a lot of Americans working on that pipeline. And they would have been working on it for a very long time. Why he stopped that, I don't understand it. That Canada should have, well, I think that's what Canada should bring up to him. Maybe they could revisit that whole thing. It was partially done. They could maybe jump on and put it together again and redo it and work together. Niagara Falls, you know, it's been part of us. I went to Canada on vacation a bunch of times. So I don't even feel like I'm going to another country. It's you know, it's like it almost is like part of us. Of course, I got to get through the border crossing, but it's open, free country. It was always a great country as far as I'm concerned. And I think most of Americans feel that way. There's a lot of Canadians who live here in the United States. Mm-hmm. So it's always been, you know, we were like brothers, so to speak.
That's right. Even yesterday, my father, I was with my father and he's like, oh, I wish I went to Arizona. I wish we could go to Arizona. And I'm like, man, I mean, we got to do a trip out there. They love it. There's a lot of my people there too. And correct me if I'm wrong, your father was born in Canada and then he migrated to the US, or he was born in the US, went to Canada and then back?
No, my father was born in Italy, Sicily. And my uncle, his father, his older brother, my uncle, he was in Canada, and he was a bootlegger during Prohibition. And he had a distillery in Canada, and he had connections in Canada. And he was smuggling booze into the West Coast and the East Coast from Canada. When my father wanted to come in, he just told my father, jump ship in Canada and I'll smuggle you in. So my father jumped ship in Canada, came through the border, and, you know, he met my mother and the families hooked up, and he was an illegal alien, actually. And then years later, he became a citizen. And so we did have that tie, even in our family, through my uncle. He didn't stay in Canada. He did that while he was doing the booze. And then he went back to Italy, and then he came back to the United States and Canada. So he was bouncing back and forth.
Got you. You got a little bit of Canadian in you, so that's good. That's good.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. We were bootlegging, but...
It's all good. I was going to ask you about your early years. You know, I was reading some of our old YouTube comments, and we were talking about you started off as a getaway driver, or in your early years, you were a getaway driver. You got any interesting stories of when you were a getaway driver in those days?
Well, yeah, I not really a getaway driver. No, somebody had to drive the car. I drove the car a bunch of times. But most of the times, like if we went on a stick-up, I was one of the guys in the place, and somebody else drove the car. But, you know, but I wasn't really a getaway driver too much, on occasion. And I was in a gang before I was in the Mafia. I left school. I was in the military. I got drafted at 19 years old during the Vietnam War. and I was in the military for a couple of years. When I came out, right back into rampers, a gang, and not even a year later, I was an associate in the Colombo family. I was there for a while, and then I got transferred over to the Gambino family, where I became a made member in the Mafia, and that's where I stayed until I left the Mafia altogether.
I got a question from one of our fans that said, how do you scale that business when you're first starting out as an associate? How do you scale and really work your way up in that life?
Well, when I was an associate with the Mafia, I was in a neighborhood that was Mafia controlled. The whole neighborhood was entrenched with it. So as a kid growing up, I knew what it was. We kind of, with the gang, we stayed away from them. We knew they were dangerous. We stayed away from them. But later on, when I came back from the military, it seemed like all my friends who were in the rampers hooked up with some family. And I hooked up with it. But I knew what they did. I knew the consequences of it. But I hooked up with them, just like my other friends did. And I don't know, there's certain ways, there's rules in the Mafia. You got to live by those rules. And so if you don't live by those rules, you could die by those rules. So, and as far as getting ahead, it's like any other job. You do your job, you work hard, you become trustworthy. People trust you. And that's what makes you excel.
So in our second interview where we sat down in person, I want to switch gears a little bit. The segment came up where we were talking about how a lot of people that you met in prison, or maybe a few people you met in prison, they would say to the judge or to their lawyers that they found God and they had the spiritual awakening. And a lot of the times they would just do that to get a lighter sentence or maybe to get out early or whatever the case may be. And so I remember you brought that up. We went down that rabbit hole a little bit. And then fast forward now, about a year later, since that interview, I see a video on your Instagram that Sammy the Bull Gravano is getting baptized as a Christian. So walk us through that process. Like, congratulations on your baptism, and walk us through that process. Like, what happened? What changed? What was different? What made you want to do it? What made you want to do it?
All right, so I go back a little bit. When I was in prison with John Gotti, I left the life. I flipped, whatever you want to call it. He betrayed me. I left the life. And I changed my life. In other words, when you leave that life, they're supposed to kill you. And I knew that, could happen, but I didn't care. I left the life. And I just hung out for a while. And then one day when there was that pandemic with the virus and all of that stuff, I caught the virus, the coronavirus. And a day or two later, I got pneumonia. A couple of days later, I got shingles. Probably I had chickenpox when I was a kid. And I was half dead. And I was in my office. I had a bedroom I was sleeping in there. It was dark. And I heard a voice. And I thought I was having delusions of, with fever, with sick as a dog. And I looked, I said, who is it? And it says, Sammy, don't be scared, be you. And I said again, who is this? And this voice said it again. It was over. And right after that, I got better. I never did a video about it. I never talked about it because I thought I was taking a delusion and I didn't want to sound like an idiot talking about it. So I didn't talk about it. But later, not only did I get better, things started working out for me in Hollywood and places I was trying to push to get into and stuff like that. And it just kept happening. And when I did hook up with Hollywood, I went back and forth to California, and I was staying with people and stuff and talking to studios about doing movies and doing stuff. And they got together on a Sunday and they said, listen, we're going to church. And I said, I don't know about me going to church. I think the whole place will burn down. And they said, oh, come on. I went to church with them, and it was a born-again Christian, the Ocean Church, and I got a really, really good vibe with it. I went with my team, Anna and them. I think she got a really good vibe from it as well. I went down a second time, same thing. And the pastor found out that I was in his church, and he made a statement about it. He reached out to me and started asking me questions about my life and stuff like that. And we went back and forth, and I liked the conversation. I liked the way he talked, the things he was doing to help people and stuff. And then he told me, he says, I would love to baptize you. You could become a born-again Christian. Because I don't follow any religion. I always believed in God, but I don't follow any religion. I think a lot of them are full of shit. But this guy was very sincere. I thought about it and I said, okay, I want to do it in private. I don't want to go, because they do it sometimes on a beach. I said, if I go on a beach with cameras and people, there'll be hundreds or thousands of people. I don't want to do that. So he got a house where we could go in a pool and he could baptize me. And I did it. And I felt really good about it. The strangest thing happened. You know, I was in a bathing suit, took off my shirt and everything. And he says, I'm going to dip you into the water. And in the water, all of your sins will remain. And you'll be born again. I joke with people. I said, listen, bro, there's a couple of guys I took here. They got guns. If you don't pull me out of that water fast enough, you're going to get shot. And he started laughing. He was good. He started laughing. You know, of course I was joking. But when I came up, the oddest thing happened. When I came up out of the water, for some reason, I don't know why, he pulled me up and I had my hands out like this. He didn't tell me to put my hands out. I don't know why I put my hands out. And it was over. And then he took me on the side. He said, why did you put your hands out? I said, I don't know. Just coming out of the water, maybe. I don't know. I don't know why I did it. He said, I believe you received Jesus in your life. I didn't answer it. But all the things leading up to this, the good vibes I was having, becoming a born-again Christian, I have already stopped killing people or doing anything like that when I left the Mafia. I've never hurt anybody. I don't cheat people. I don't lie. I don't bullshit. I never did that in prison, found God, and I'm on my way out to get a reduction. I never did any of that. I never said I did. So it just felt good. So when September came, I became a born-again Christian. And things just kept getting better and better and better for me. Now, the pastor had told me, even though you believe in God, you can't just ask God for a favor. You can't just tell God, I'm having financial problems, let me hit the lottery. It's not going to happen. God looks at you, he's telling me, when you work for something, in other words, I'm going to build part of this, I'm going to do a renovation in this house. And I buy materials and a hammer and this and that and saws, and I'm working and I'm killing myself and I just can't fix this window or this door or something. And I say, God, help me do this, bro. And God comes to you and helps you. Now, he told me that, and you have to work for God to help you. You got to work towards him. And I believe in that. And everything I've been working on, movies, films, scripted show, it's come to me. one after the other, call after call after call. I got tremendous people in Hollywood around me. When I got out of prison, I was joking. I said, I'm going to take over Hollywood. Somebody asked me a question. I'm just talking bullshit. I'm going to take over Hollywood. It was maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago, somebody said to me, Sammy, I remember you saying that. I said, I was only joking. He said, no, he said, you are taking over Hollywood. You have some of the strongest people in Hollywood who are doing your shows and you're working with. People who are in Hollywood and show business for 20 years can't be with the people I'm with. Nick Pileggi's a legend. 𝐤𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞, Terry Winter. These are people I'm working with. These are the biggest people in Hollywood. We just sold recently. I could talk about it now a little bit. We sold my scripted show to Disney, who owns FX. FX is going to do it. And just recently, I was in the car with Anna and we're driving. And she says, oh, my God. I said, what happened? She said, they put it out in Hollywood. They're all talking about it. Variety, all of these magazines, they're talking about it. We didn't even know they were going to do that. They were so hot to do it. Before we even signed contracts, they did it. So they're really hot. And Disney is telling FX and Hulu, they own both of them, to put their best teams together to work with our teams. So we have 3 fantastic teams working on the stuff. And so do I believe in God? I have always believed in God. Do I believe that I became a born-again Christian? God is helping me a little extra, a little special. He likes what I'm doing, likes what I'm saying, likes how I'm conducting myself, and things are working out. So it may sound a little crazy, but I believe in it. I believe in it. So, and Anna one day talking to me the same thing, she says, Sammy, I mean, it's incredible what's going on. I mean, we're working hard for it, don't get me wrong. There's no magic, no miracles. We're working hard for it. Anna works 12 hours a day. I work 15, she works 12. And we go away when we have to go to California. We're now talking about going to California and meet with the writers and meet with everybody in January, this new year. And that's how fast everything is happening. And we look at it sometimes and talk ourselves, not trying to make a statement. I'm talking to you, but I'm not going out and doing videos about it. And I found Jesus Christ. Even though I am, I don't go out and I don't try to convince people to change their life or to become a Christian or to become this. I don't do that. I believe in it. And the pastor said to me, because I got murders and everything in my life, and he talked about people in God's life, in Jesus' life, and he mentioned all their names about that they did murders, and they were around Jesus. And he said, Sammy, you were a warrior for the Mafia. I believe that you're going to be a warrior for Christianity, for God. I said, what makes you say that? Because what you did, and people see you and what you did all your life, and they're looking at you now, and they're going to say, if he could change his life, I could change mine. That's how you're going to be a warrior. I feel hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, are going to follow your path. We're talking about my scripted show. One of the guys, the director, said, we know where we're going to make the pilot, where we're going to start this movie, this scripted show, and go back and forth. You just gave us the ending. I said, how did I give you the ending? He said, there's no better ending, Sammy, to your story than that you become a Christian and you went and in a beautiful way. Now I'm up in age. I may not see that, I don't know if I'll live that long, but all of these things just worked out. Now, I didn't do that to become a Christian. It had nothing to do with my movie. I didn't even have a thought of that. But yet, even there, they're looking at it as a blessing to them. That they found a way to do. The end of the movie is like, instead of dying or instead of whatever, I became a born-again Christian and went on and changed my life. So I look at that, and that maybe hundreds of millions of people will view this scripted show. It's going to be like The Sopranos, but it's a story of my life. The pilot starts, it's a long pilot, it'll be 3 episodes, and then an episode every week comes out. And it'll go on for quite a long time. So now, the furthest thing from my mind is that that's going to be in the movie, especially that's the ending. I mean, this came from them, not me.
Yes.
So when I think about it, I say, well, look what that happened already. Now, without an exaggeration, Christians must love what I did or like what I did. I must have 16 Bibles. People sending me, Bible, thank you, Sam, becoming, and talking about it and sending me a Bible. So I told people, listen, thank you so much. Stop sending me Bibles. I have to open up a store and sell them. So it was crazy. But, even my son, it was about a month and a half ago that my son called me up on a Sunday out here in Arizona, not in California, the Ocean Church. And he said, I'm going to take my kid to church Sunday. Would you come with me? And I said, yeah. And I went to the local church here. I don't know the name of it, but I went to the local Christian church and we did it. And then my son is telling me that I got a good vibe with that. I like what you did. What do you think if I become a born-again Christian? I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If you're going to change your life, and if this helps you change in your life, and you have something to believe in, go ahead. Go ahead. Maybe you could talk to this pastor, and maybe he'll baptize you, and you become a born-again Christian. So I think it all worked out to be a good thing. But see that other thing when guys would say, to get out of jail early, I found Jesus Christ, I did that. A lot of guys ask me, I said, listen, I never found him in prison. Because that's bullshit. I'm going to say that just to get out a little early. I did all my time. I never used that kind of an excuse or any kind of excuse. I did all my time. So this is not an excuse to me. This is something I feel good about, what I did and what I'm doing. And I hope the pastor is right. I hope it affects millions of people and they become Christians, because that's what we need. We were talking in the beginning about Trump and about 51st state and your president and what Joe Biden has done. We need good people. We need to change our lives, or we're going to be in wars. We're going to die by the millions. It's better we become Christians or whatever and stop fighting. We have something that we can believe in together, respect one another. So there's so many things that could happen in a positive way. And that's the way I look at it. I'm not going to be a fanatic. I'm not going to tell you to change your life or somebody else, change your life, become this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a preacher. I'm just a born-again Christian. I believe in that. I've always believed in God, so I don't have a problem with that.